Tomorrow night, the South Portland City Council is scheduled to vote on whether to revoke the licenses of 4 hotels that are currently sheltering people experiencing homelessness.
Why? Well, the South Portland police and fire chiefs say there has been a dramatic increase in complaints relating to public health, safety, and welfare, and also relating to unlawful conduct at or near the locations. They say that rise happened when cities like Portland, South Portland, and others started placing people there.
Now, they say it's causing an unsustainable burden on first responders. Now, the people who currently care for those people sheltering at the hotels are worried. They are concerned about what will happen if the council revokes those hotels' licenses.
It could be your son or your neighbor is somebody that's living in one of these hotels.
730 people taking shelter.
If the licenses were revoked, people would scatter and it would be a crisis situation.
Andrew Bove knows what's at stake. He's been working in homeless services for 15 years. He's now the vice president of social work for Preble Street.
People would be forced to seek out emergency shelter options when there aren't really many or any available.
He says Portland's Oxford, Chestnut, and Preble Street shelters are at capacity. The end goal? Shelter them in the facility under construction on Riverside Street. That would hold 205 people, but it will not be ready until early next year.
Some people would probably end up unsheltered on the street.
There was always that possibility, unfortunately. So what we're trying to avoid.
Does that concern you?
Absolutely. Shelter is the most critical need. It is the very first thing that we try to make sure that people have.
Kristen Dow is the Director of Health and Human Services for the City of Portland. The city could not secure other temporary shelter locations, so City of Portland workers have been staffing the Days Inn 24/7. Preble Street has a daytime case manager at Comfort Inn.
And both of those situations, we've seen that the staff presence there can really help lower guest needs and address any unintended community impacts.
But a relatively new wrinkle involves the Howard Johnson and Casco Bay Hotel. Those hotels' licenses are up for debate too. City of Portland data show 69% of all 730 people living in these hotels are asylum seekers. At the Howard Johnson, it's 97%.
So yeah, it definitely ratcheted up the anxiety a bit, just knowing that the stakes are even larger.
We can put things together and work together with our community partners in the city of South Portland to provide services so hopefully people won't have to call 911 for non-emergent issues, and to maybe perhaps curb those calls, but to have it solely based on the calls for service, it worries me.
Dow already drafted plans to staff the Days Inn and Comfort Inn. She feels confident they can staff all the hotels with nurses, behavioral and mental health care, and case management with help from community organizations. But it all depends on what the South Portland City Council comes up with for conditions on how these hotels would have to be covered to let them keep their licenses.
The folks in these hotels, they don't want to be living there. And when people are stable in housing, that allows you to work on other things that can get them out of homelessness.
I hope that it is something that the solution that comes up is a doable solution, because there are people's lives at stake.
So South Portland City Manager declined to do an interview with us, but he did point us towards this informational page on the city website. So to be clear, city staff will not be recommending that the council revoke any of the hotel's licenses. The city's goal is not to displace these families and individuals. Instead, the city says it's using this licensing process to recommend a number of conditions to help the situation. Now, those specific conditions will be presented tomorrow night, August 2nd, at the hearing. They will not be announced in advance. The city wants council members to treat this with as much impartiality as possible. But I did just get some good news from one of the stakeholders. They told me they got that list of conditions, and a select few other stakeholders got them as well. So now they have an indication of what services they'd need to provide for the people sheltering there. Now, as far as the money is concerned, the state of Maine is already planning to fund up to $2.5 million to address this housing crisis. State officials that are familiar with these issues tell me that the state is willing to consider additional support, including money, to help staff at the other 2 locations.